Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel today. Now, today I wanted to get straight into the topic of listening to your colleagues or listening to your friends or family who aren't in the place that you want to be and you're taking their advice. Now, this can be a little bit controversial, especially when people start to say, don't listen to your family, but what I mean by this is I've seen it time and time again where people who aren't in the position that you want to be give you financial advice, give you life advice, and then you might take it and then might be regretting not going down the steps that you wanted to go down in the first place. So the very first one I wanted to talk about is where family and friends talk to you about your career and give you advice on their career even though you don't want their career, sort of thing. So let's say, for example, you always wanted to be a film director. That was your dream since a kid, and maybe you said it to your family multiple times as you were growing up. Perhaps they had the mentality of, you're never going to make it, you're never going to be a top film director, you're always going to be struggling for money, that sort of thing. What's actually happening there is they're putting their fear on top of you, and you're of course absorbing it because as a family member you feel like you can trust them, and that they know what's best for you. But actually their fear is suppressing your passion and love and drive for something. So if, for example, you want to be a bloody film director, maybe go down the steps and see, okay, what kind of skills do I need to succeed in this area? Do I need to learn how to edit first before I can direct, a scene? Or do I need to go down and be an internship in a certain kind of film and TV industry? What are the things that you can do? What are the actions that you need to take to actually become that thing? And maybe, take what people are saying with a pinch of salt, because you're only on this earth for a certain amount of years. No one's going to live forever. And if this is the thing you really want to do, you should really just try and go and do it. And similarly, if you're listening to people who are potentially living paycheck to paycheck and they're giving you financial or life advice, you should really maybe step back and kind of think, okay, why should I take advice from people who I don't want to be in their career position or in their financial position? If someone is really saying to you, you really shouldn't move to London because it's so expensive, you're not going to have a very nice time, you're going to be living with strangers, you're going to be scrimping for money, then that becomes your mindset, and you maybe weren't even thinking about that before. Of course, a lot of it comes with love, family and friends may be like warning you of certain situations, and of course you do have to kind of listen to some of the things people are telling you, of course, if it's given in love. But when it's like a fear-based tactic of suppressing you and suppressing the things that you want to do, they might not even be aware it's fear-based, and it's like potentially subconscious for them that they're relaying onto you. But maybe just take a step back, and if you really want to, let's say, live in London and be a film director, yes, that will be a very tricky route to go down, but it's not that you can't do those things, especially if that's your, life ambition. It is better to be in a bigger city like London, like New York, to be able to be around like-minded creatives like that. So in that situation, it would be best for you to move to a big city if that's the kind of dream that you want to go after. Whereas if you stay in your hometown, which may be a smaller town, it will be more difficult, of course, to be a film director because you won't be surrounded by people in TV and film, most likely, or creative people, or connections and things like that, or networking events, whereas those sort of things tend to be a lot more prevalent in bigger cities. So maybe just take things with a pinch of salt when you're getting advice from people who aren't in the situations or life that you want to have for yourself. Not that there's anything wrong with the life that they lead, it's just not the life that you want for yourself. So the second thing is debts. So when people around you start to give you life advice on, credit cards and how to spend your money. But maybe if you kind of flip it around and look at their lifestyle, maybe they have credit card debt, maybe they've got big car loans, these sort of things. Yes, it might sound harsh, but what I mean is it's okay to kind of listen to their side of the story and, how they came to be, but you shouldn't take it on yourself. Yes, it's different if they're trying to warn you, like maybe they said, oh, I've taken out a massive car loan, it was at 25% interest, I shouldn't have done that, make sure you don't do that. That's different, of course, because they're trying to warn you on a bad financial, decision that they made. But if they're trying to persuade you to get credit cards, but maybe you're not ready to rent, a big condo that's more than you feel like you can afford, if they're trying to, recommend you get these really high interest rates, those are the situations where I'm saying just stop and think about what they're trying to advise you here. Are they in a good financial position? And if not, you shouldn't be taking their financial advice. And sometimes it's hard to spot and sometimes it's easy. You know, if they're driving a big Range Rover, but maybe they're renting a place and haven't been able to afford to buy a place, or maybe you know that they're living paycheck to paycheck, that they have a lot of, you know, clothes and tend to eat out, but at the end of the day, they don't have any savings, you know, they don't have any financial goals for themselves apart from being in debt. You know, that can be a bit of a telltale sign that maybe they're not the best with their money. And similar with the housing situation, you know, if someone is renting's not the worst thing in the world. Sometimes that is genuinely a preference for people, or, you know, maybe they have other goals that they want to achieve before they buy a property. But if they are renting a property, and let's say, you know, they only get paid maybe £2,500 a month, okay, they're staying in a place in the middle of London, and you know that they pay £2,000 a month every month for, you know, their rental. That only gives them £500 to eat, to travel, to buy other things. They're living above their means in that situation. So you will start to see telltale signs, and maybe they're overstretching themselves. And in those situations, you really shouldn't be taking financial advice from people like that, unless they're trying to, of course, warn you not to do the things that they're doing. This might be the situation for yourself as well. Maybe you come from a family of people who don't invest, who, you know, don't save into high interest savings accounts, things like that. You know, a situation where people weren't investing and they didn't really understand investing. I've heard it from a few people that, you know, it can be like gambling, you're going to lose your money, it's very volatile, you don't know what you're getting yourself into, things like that. And it's a fear-based mentality that they're putting on top of you. But at the end of the day, as long as you understand what you're doing, and as long as you're not going into, of course, volatile things, like I think cryptocurrency is very volatile and it's not something that I am investing into, and I don't think I ever will. But what I am investing into personally for me is index funds, things like S&P 500, putting in a direct debit every month into that at the same time every month, and just let it compound over time for years. You know, I'll probably leave it in there for 10, 15, 20 years so that compound can just do its thing. But for me, that seems like the best way to grow your money, rather than just keeping it in a savings account, which might just have like a 2%, you know, interest rate, whereas a lot of the investments that I tend to put into will be about 8% growth roughly. And of course, if you leave it in over time, you'll get interest on top of interest on top of interest. So rewinding back to what I was saying, you know, if you come from a family of people who don't invest and who find it very scary and who feel like it's gambling or you're playing the lotto, of course, that means that they don't really understand what investing means, and that there's all different types of investments, and actually it can be better than just saving. And the last point I want to make on that about the fear-based mentality is, you know, you might have family and friends around you that work a 9 to 5 and feel like that's the safest thing to do, and will, of course, you know, try and persuade you or other family members to just stay within the 9 to 5 realm. Because it's stable, you know, you'll have a regular income, things like that. But the more as I've gotten older now, I've realized that, hang on, a 9 to 5 is actually not stable. You know, we've all had friends or, you know, personal circumstances where there's been restructures in a company and people have been made redundant even though they thought they were in a stable job. You know, that of course happens. And in those circumstances, people can of course become so dependent on their regular paycheck and feel like they're in a safe environment. And then when the rug gets pulled from under them, they're of course stuck with a big ass car loan, you know, that they're in this really expensive rental property, that they've had this lifestyle inflation that they felt like was gonna, you know, sustain them, you know, in the long term, having all these paychecks coming in. But when that suddenly stops, they're left in a very difficult situation. So I would say 9 to 5 is actually not as stable as people try and, you know, promote. And if you're in a situation where they're really promoting that, I would say to just kind of hold on and have a bit of a think about it. Maybe you want to go down the entrepreneurial route. Maybe you want to have side hustles where you might learn how to edit and then edit videos on the side on top of your day job. Or maybe you do want to just have, you know, a stable job and have something else on the side so that you have several, you know, forms of income, sources of income coming into you, so that, you know, you're not just stuck with the one. So I believe the 9 to 5 is not exactly the most stable an economical way to live. You know, I think to have multiple streams of income, whether it be dividends, whether it be a side hustle, whether it be like literally walking your neighbor's dog and getting a few hundred here and there. Also put your mind at ease, because you're not just relying on one thing. It can be a little bit of a controversial topic when people say, hang on, don't listen to your family and friends. But what I mean is really think about what people are telling you and their circumstances, Are they living the life that you want to live? And if not, maybe take what they're saying with a pinch of salt. You will happen to know yourself, you know, if you listen to your gut and if you feel like they're trying to push something on you, like a big car loan, like a mortgage too early, things like that, that you really just have to step back and really assess your own financial situation. You know, where are you at the minute? You know, are you in credit card loans or are you in a good position? It's always good to kind of really understand where you are financially and then take it from there. And if you have goals that you want to achieve, but you've got these other, you know, fear-based people that are kind of cramming on top of you, really kind of step back and have a think about how you want to live your life, and then just go and do it. You know, take the actionable steps to actually do it. But yeah, that's it guys for me. Thanks for listening. As I said, I'm a super new channel, so if this kind of thing about financial well-being is your cup of tea, then it'd be great if you can comment and subscribe below. But yeah, until next time guys, thanks, bye.